I'm William Shatner. I've done a lot of things in my career, but this takes the cake. This is so cool. You, Joseph, today, it's all about you. You won the internet. Congratulations. It's exciting. It makes me want to celebrate. Makes me want to get up out of this chair. Makes me want to sing. Makes me want to dance. Makes me want to shout. Kick my heels up. Throw my hands up. Toss my head back. No, really, people should be shouting your name in the street.
Come on now. Sing that name.
Sing that song.
Joseph,
Sing it out loud.
Joseph.
I want to celebrate. Put it up in lights.
The internet belongs to you.
See, no one else deserves to be celebrated like you because you are the best.
Hey, listen up, y'all. I'm gonna shout out this young gun right here because he's trying to do his thing. Joseph JAFFE, not famous. Probably rightfully so, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm famous because, you know, he not famous and he like, yo, let me call my famous friends and see if they'll shout me out and make me more famous, sir. Right? But so, Joseph JAFFE, man, it's cool. You got your late night talk show popping off. That's what's dope. Streaming, been doing your thing, man. Started this in March of the 2020, which is, tough throughout the years, but booking great guests, man. Jamal Mashboard, James Rollins, steady building it, man. Keep it popping off, man. Keep building your brand, man. Believe in yourself. Keep going hard, all right? That's what it's all about. One of these days, this little acronym of yours, not famous, is not going to be true. People going to see you in the mall and be like, I know who you is. Them going to be your cousins saying it all incorrect like that. But you know what I'm saying? You know what you going to do. What you going to do? They family. All right, bro. I'll holler.
Woody-hoo! Out here in the stream, as in the streaming era, I fight for my dreams. I get my heart into my living.
You encourage drinking or marijuana use on the show?
I don't need a fight, cause Evelyn's right. Or you could sponsor an emu. I'm Batman.
That's your tweetable moment, folks. That's your tweetable moment. If Mark Zuckerberg makes a metaverse, is that Web3? No, it's Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse.
He's like us. He's flawed.
Just a little segue.
That's some dope shit, dude. That's really, really nice.
Woody-hoo! 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 Hooty-hoo, and who the hell are you? I know who you are. You are the very famous audience watching the not-so-famous Joseph JAFFE interviewing the very famous, I'm getting confused, Tony Watley, but here's what you need to know, is that it's all about my cousins. Kelly McCoy Williams says, JAFFE's cousins, LOL. And Jamie Thompson says, I know who you is. Love it, love it. Yeah, a little bit of fun. I mean, this show is about hope, positivity, and optimism, or as my mother calls it, HPO. And if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. Well, I'm excited to have Tony here. More on him very soon. I have been forgetting to mention to all of you that I'm going to be making some interesting changes. Just not huge changes, but interesting changes nonetheless. If you love watching the show live, you're probably going to want to start gravitating towards YouTube. In addition, you're probably going to want to maybe hold a JAFFE coin, because what we're going to be doing is really focusing the liveness of the show. What happens when the show is live? Well, I give away some JAFFE coin, like round about now. There it is. That QR code, if you hold some JAFFE coin, you'll earn some more JAFFE coin. What I'm looking to experiment with is to bring the liveness of the show into a smaller, more intimate environment. And so some people will watch it live and others will watch it premiered on YouTube or on the internets, on the social medias, etc., etc. one of the reasons why I'm doing that, and there is some method to the madness, is I've been anguishing, and I'll talk about this in my seated soliloquy. What do you do when ultimately you grow? What do you do when the very thing that you wished for comes true? Well, more on that shortly, but a quick update on my project, my new baby, my love child. Alpha Collective. One of the things I'm super happy to let people know is that right now I've been able to lower the price of a 1-year all-access membership pass to 1 ETH. And if you don't know what an ETH is, then you probably should be paying with your credit card. But what you need to know is that 1 ETH, which is the equivalent of about $1,650, give or take, will give you a whole bunch of incredible benefits, like 52 Alpha Talk speakers delivering 52 Alpha Talks, IRL events, networking, private Discord channel, private Telegram channel, and a whole bunch of surprises and delights. One of the things that you don't actually have to buy a pass for is something that originally we thought we would include as a membership only benefit, and that is the Collective Cafe. Now, every Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., we meet for virtual coffee in the Collective Cafe, discord.gg/Alpha Collective. Originally, I thought I would bring it in and I would make it private, but now we're not going to do that. This cafe, this virtual coffee, will be available to every single person, whether you buy a pass or not. Members will have certain benefits. They can start coffee anytime. They can assume the stage. They can come up to the stage. But we really want this to be a place for community to build themselves, for community to gather, a town square-like environment, a safe space and a safe place for people to get their day started off on the right foot, the right way. So I really do encourage you to check out discord.gg/Alpha Collective. We're having some really, really meaningful conversations about things that count, about things that matter, about things that are going to help everyone rise together, because the rising tide certainly floats all boats. It is absolutely true. Kelly says the code did not scan. We will have to sort that out for you. You do need to hold some JAFFE coin in order to earn JAFFE coin, but we can make a plan, Kelly. We can make sure that we get some coin sent to you. There's a lot to go around. But now it's time for the seated soliloquy. And today, the seated soliloquy is called Empty House. Not Full House, but Empty House. And I spoke about this being something that we were discussing on and in our Collective Cafe. Here's the thing. There is a gentleman by the name of Grant Cardone who lives in Clubhouse. Tony Watley lives there too in Clubhouse sometimes, and so do I. And Grant is quoted as saying, if you are driving down the, let's say, Post Road, Route 1, and you see 2 diners or 2 bars or 2 restaurants, and one is completely empty and the other one is completely full, the parking lot is full, which one do you go to? Now, the obvious answer that you would think is the full house, is the one that is full. Because as the saying goes, the only thing worse than an overflowing club or bar or restaurant where there's a line outside where you're shoulder to shoulder is an empty one. That is the popular line of thought. But I want to challenge that thought, and I want to actually turn it on its head. Maybe you should be going to the empty house, because in the empty house or the empty bar or the empty show or the empty Clubhouse room or the empty Discord server, you have a blank canvas. You have peace. You have quiet. You have tranquility. You have intimacy. You have a private audience, sometimes with someone that might be quite famous and other times someone who might be not famous. I said to everyone this morning, we had about 10 people in our coffee, And I said, enjoy this moment, enjoy this time, because there will come a time soon enough when there aren't 10, there are 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, and that intimacy will be gone. It's the same thing like with the show right now. If you're watching live and you're commenting, I can put you on screen, but there will come a time. You know, my manifested goal is to be on CNBC, on Cheddar, on Apple TV Plus, but there will come a time when those comments are scrolling so quickly that it is virtually impossible to be able to screen them, for me to screen them and put them on the screen. That scroll on YouTube, wherever it may be, is a blessing and a curse because it indicates success, but be careful what you wish for. I've always said in my own keynotes, how do you scale intimacy? How do you scale humanity? And today, I resign myself to the fact that the answer is you actually don't. At some point, it's just not possible to do it. That doesn't mean that you still can't be intimate. It just means you have to evolve and move to something else and something new and figure out a new way to connect, to engage, to surprise and delight. Quite frankly, it's not dissimilar to what's happening on a Peloton leaderboard, where some people will get shout outs and others won't. You have to figure out a new system, and guess what? Technology helps. So the next time you're driving down that Route 1, that post road, and you see a full house or an empty house, choose the empty house. Be the first to enter that empty house, because there the proprietor or the manager will get to know your name. There you will have a real conversation. There you will be able to really connect without being drowned by the inevitable noise, which surely will follow. And now, speaking of intimacy and no noise, it's time to welcome Mr. Tony Watley. Tony Watley is an entrepreneur, business mentor, best-selling author, podcast host, and speaker. He's best known as co-founder of LS1 Tech, an online automotive community which grew into the largest of its kind. This website grew to over 300,000 registered members and was later sold for millions in only 5 years. Amazingly, it was just his part-time business, his side hustle. Tony shares his mindset and business strategies within his book, Side Hustle Millionaire. He also teaches entrepreneurs how to start, scale, and sell their business within his podcast and consulting brand, 365 Driven. Let's welcome him to the show. Tony, at last we meet in video.
Joseph, I'm honored to be here, man. It's good to connect virtually on 2 different continents, I guess. So I'm happy to be here, brother.
No, I think I might be on your same continent.
Okay.
It depends. Are you in Europe or Africa?
No, I'm not.
I'm in Connecticut.
All right. Well, then we are on the same continent today. I do travel. We both travel a lot, so we'll see.
We both do, although I'm finding that I'm traveling a little bit less than I used to. One of the things I've been writing in my new book is we got so excited about travel, and we would boast about our business class flight where there was a lie flat bed. And so what I wrote is, hey, you like lie flat beds? Can I tell you what else offers you a lie flat bed? Your bed. Your bed. But anyway, I don't know about you, but I'm 6 foot and change. I'm shrinking, and I still can't quite stretch out enough on that lie flat bed. But hey, don't know what you can't afford.
That's it. Hey, I liked your opening story there about the empty room versus the full one. And I tend to agree with that, because I think that if you are someone that's driven, that's going to go out there and go do something, you can actually create a bigger impact in a smaller room and grow it organically. And I've had to do that several times in my life. And I'm an introvert. I don't like going to big rooms filled with a lot of people. And if I do that, I have to go take a nap in one of those hotel rooms afterwards just to kind of recharge after that. And
I also, funnily enough, it's weird because we're both speakers. I can stand on stage in front of 1,000 people and I don't actually have any nerves whatsoever, but put me on a conference call or a Zoom with 5 people and I'm actually like, I'm sweating. I'm feeling it already in my hands. It's the weirdest thing.
I would say that I'm the opposite of that. I would say I feel a little bit of nerves taking a stage, but Zooms and slideshows and presentations probably from the 20 plus years in corporate where I was always presenting things like that to a captive audience that couldn't escape.
What do you do in a situation, for example, there's so many people and they're trying to build audience and they're trying to build community and they're trying to build a following and they go live on Instagram and they open up a clubhouse room and nobody is there. It's like if a tree, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to see it, doesn't make a sound. What do you tell them and how do you motivate them to keep going and stay the course?
Well, first, I think it's important to identify the distinction between community and followers. And when you and I used to hang out on Clubhouse, sometimes you'd have influencers that came in who were blue check marks on other platforms and they were trying to, use their notoriety or their fame, so to speak, to come grow an audience in Clubhouse. That worked for a few of them. But some of these rooms that we get in the topics, we start talking about community, and they would mistake that their following was actually a community, and they're not the same. I always think of the community and the following as like they're mutually exclusive. They can exist. You can be both, but most times you'll find that it's one or the other. And the way I describe a community is that, well, let me describe the follower first. That's a little more common nowadays on social media. A follower base, if you want to visualize this, think of it like a pyramid, and the influencer or the person is at the very top with their arms stretched up and they're like, it's all about me and I'm super awesome and you guys are all here following me. And it's cascading a one-way message going downhill, right? And so it's all about them and it's always just this one-way communication from them to the audience, from them to the audience. There's no two-way conversation, and that's a following. And if you're very entertaining or you have a lot of value or something that you're sharing, you will grow that audience if that's what you want. Now, a community is completely different. A community leader doesn't stand at the top of a pyramid. If you want to visualize that, I think of an upside down pyramid with the community leader at the bottom on the ground level, holding his arms up still, but holding the upside down pyramid up in the air. Because a community leader is not about ego or trying to be that I'm the super boss here and I'm super awesome and you guys are all in my community because of me. It's not like that at all. It's about how can I build the virtual bars, and she's talked about bars and restaurants. I'm going to build the virtual bar that people show up at that have value. They're entertained. They meet other people. They interact and they become lifelong friends from the people that they meet. So they actually keep coming back to this community because of the value and the people that they've met in that community. So it has nothing to do with the leader. The leader's job is to facilitate interactions between the members so that the members become best friends and lifelong friends. And some people get married and all kinds of things that can happen in a community, but it's not about the leader. So the leader is a facilitator of bonds, strong bonds between the members. So there's also a two-way conversation because a leader will interact and be a part of that community as well. So you can see the differences between the two there.
Oh, can I see them? I mean, I can see them so clearly. And I hope people are paying attention and taking note of this because it is so powerful, the essence of what it takes to build a real community. Because, there's a third component, which is essentially something that almost takes on a cult-like following, so to speak. And, the thing why this resonates so strongly with me is I decided, just like I'm the host of the show, that with Alpha Collective, my title is host. I'm the host of the party. But what party do you want to go to where the host is sitting on top of you and talk amongst yourselves? I'll give you a topic and eavesdropping on your conversations. Like at the end of the day, I feel like a good host is like they say, a good moderator on a panel. You barely hear from them. You shouldn't have to have them dominate the conversation because people are comfortable enough to have those conversations independently. So what you said really resonates strongly with me.
Yeah, and I would say that I've built two large communities. The first one you mentioned in the intro was the automotive racing and performance community, 300,000 members. Well, I took that same business model 2 years after I started that one, and I built a truck performance category, which very similar, racing cars, racing trucks. We found out there was a lot of people that like to buy, pickup trucks and modify them and race each other, but there wasn't a community for them. So I had all the contacts with the advertisers and the sponsors, and I understand the technical requirements to build something like that. And I just basically took the same core values and a few key staff members, and we went over there and we created that. And my second place effort, which I call performancetrucks.net, that one grew to 280,000 registered members. So I was able to duplicate this process. And I didn't realize at the time that I had this ability to create communities. It was just something I enjoyed doing. But later looking back and looking at the different things that have been created in the world, you realize that it's very rare to build a community with 10,000 members versus 100,000 or multiple hundreds of thousands or millions of members. But there is a pattern that I started to see even within Facebook groups and things like that, that's how you build a community. You have to build the value proposition where the value is higher than the time wasted to visit the community. Like if they're learning things, they're entertaining things, or their friends are hanging out there, they're going to keep coming back. But you got to create that value and the bonds that are way more valuable than just maybe getting banned. Because a lot of times we see these Facebook groups you go into and there's toxic people and they're talking trash back and forth and they're just instigating fights and nobody's doing anything about it. And you start to wonder, well, where are the moderators? Where are the admins at? Why aren't anybody like policing this? It's because they are not good leaders. Whoever created that group, that Facebook group or that community, and there's toxic people and there's just bickering and all this stuff going on, they're either a part of that and they like that, or they're just not really good leaders and they're not strong enough to remove the negative people. So that's one of the things I see from weak leadership is they try to be too nice, they try to please everybody. And what happens when you allow negative people or toxic people to stay in your community is that it keeps the people that actually want to contribute value from participating, because they go, man, if I respond to this, I'm going to have all these people trolling me and talking trash. Like, it's not even worth my time. So the good people, the people that actually want to entertain and be a part of this, will just kind of hang back in the shadows. They'll be the wall huggers and watching all the drama unfold, wondering why everybody's just doing crazy things. So you got to have tough skin. You got to be able to remove those negative people without warnings. Don't go, well, this is your first warning. Like, just set the rules, set the baseline. If people disrespect those, treat your community just like your house. If people are going to walk into your home and say things negative and start taunting your guests that are already there, wouldn't you kick their ass out the door? Yes, you would. So you have to create your communities with the same level of guidelines and protect the people that are in your community, just like you would visitors to your home.
You just said a key point there, which is guidelines. And as I've often said, which is, if you come into my home and the rules of my home are that you take your shoes off, well, if you refuse to take your shoes off, perhaps I don't invite you into my home, and perhaps I do. But I think it's so clear, this is not a Web 2 or Web 3. This is just a, basic, timeless, universal best practice, which is management of expectations. If you set a clear set of guidelines and guardrails, and then you stick by them, that seems to be a much clearer, almost rule of engagement between leaders, moderators, members, and anyone else that would come to join.
Yeah, you just have a zero tolerance policy. And if people are finding good value in your community or whatever you've created, they're not going to jeopardize the loss of that value or that presence or that information by showing and acting like a fool, because there's a little troll in all of us. Let's be real. We like to trigger people once in a while. But if the value proposition is that you're going to lose the access to this and these people by doing so, you're going to have to be able to create that value that's worth more than the effort of them being negative.
There's also, it seems to me, that there is an interesting, I don't want to say tension, but there's definitely a continuum between people that are just, as you say, there's a little bit of troll in every one of us. But how do you deal, and we'll get to haters in a moment, but how do you deal with criticism? How do you deal with criticism that is warranted? How do you deal with, when I wrote Join the Conversation, I said, conversation is defined as between two or more sides, not two or more people. This isn't about agreement and, sheep-like or lemming-like agreement. It's about sometimes healthy, respectful discourse and debate.
Yeah, I think that respectful debate is always encouraged. I think that you should always be able to back up your opinions or your thoughts on data and research and your experience and things that you could share. Now, the end result may not change anybody's opinion, and that's fine, but it's okay to engage in the negative discourse or the criticisms and things like that. And I love debates, but I think that the loser of those debates is obviously the one that always resorts to character attacks or name calling, or, so when someone gets into the emotional side and they're just name calling and, trying to lump you in some group or classify you as something, that means they've run out of ammunition, they've run out of experience, they've run out of intelligence, they've run out of everything. So if you're going to debate with somebody, make sure that you're very well prepared in that knowledge base and be able to take your ground without going into a character attack.
I always, one of the things I'm trying to do myself, and I'm not great at taking criticism, but then who is? But one thing that I've tried to do now is, before I respond, before I immediately, the hit back or the pushback, I try and find the truth in the other person's opinion, because there has to be some truth. If you think about it, it's almost inconceivable that one side can be completely wrong and the other side can be completely right. I mean, it happens, but it's probably more the extreme exception than the norm. And it's a good way then, I think, from a humility standpoint, to be able to find that element of truth and then be able to kind of offer, let's say, a different perspective.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's just wisdom with age and experience. What you just described is the moment of awareness that exists from the stimulus to the response. And I say response because most people react. A reaction and response are not the same thing. A reaction is usually based on an emotional reaction. You get angry, maybe you road rage, or maybe you just throw the keyboard grenade back at their side, or these kind of things. So you're missing that moment of awareness, which could be milliseconds of, here's the stimulus. What are the actual feelings or the emotions that I feel? It's okay to acknowledge that I feel emotions, like this person's trying to make me angry. This person's trying to confuse me. This person is trying to embarrass me. Whatever those may be, acknowledge that those exist, because you're human, unless you're sociopath, right? So, and then you go, okay, what is the proper response? Not the reaction. What's the proper response? Do I do some more research and come back? Or do I say, hey, I genuinely don't know the answer to that. Thank you for informing me. So you have these proper responses that one of the two is going to lead you closer to your goals or whatever your purpose is, and the other one's probably going to lead you further away from your goals or your purpose. So don't get in the habit of just reacting. Learn how to respond. And I think that's very good that you highlighted that.
Reaction versus response. And then I always talk about response and responsiveness. So there's one is about how quickly does it take you to respond, and then the other one is how is the quality of that response. And I've always, when talking to big brands and companies, tried to get them to realize that it's important to show up and do it within a maybe not immediately, because I think probably, Tony, there's a fine line. Sometimes when you show up too quickly, it can actually lead to an adverse reaction, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think the timing is a lot. And also, I think one of the most powerful responses played sometimes is zero response. Sometimes people are just really trying hard to ruffle your feathers. And maybe you see this continued habit or this pattern developing with certain individuals. Maybe you've got friends on your social media or even family members on your social media that only respond in order to bait you or try to get you off your game. So when you start to recognize these patterns, quit giving those people attention, and also understand that, like you said earlier, that there's a little bit of truth in each of these responses or their questions or the way they want to carry on the conversation. But identify that it may not be your truth. It could just be their truth. Maybe their truth is that they're insecure, they're unhappy, they're hurting, and they're looking for an outlet to go take that on somebody else. So that might be their truth, but it doesn't mean that you got to go step into that and engage into that. So sometimes the best response is zero response.
And it's tricky, right? Because if as the saying goes, there are three sides to every story: your side, my side, and the truth. But these days, you have your truth, I have my truth, and neither of our truths might actually be the truth. And that's that's tough. And that's tough because ultimately there has to be some kind of meeting of the minds or compromise. Otherwise, I guess you end up with Congress.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I don't think that compromise is a requirement. I think that it's okay to have healthy debate. And I think that here's one thing that people need to gain awareness of is that no matter how strong your convictions are, or know how many strong your beliefs are, whether it's politics or religion or whatever the things that are polarizing subjects, right? Whatever you truly believe in this moment is something that you just vehemently believe in, and like nobody can change your mind. Just realize here's the big picture moment. Realize that your beliefs could have been 180 degrees different had you just been born in a different city, a different country, a different time, or with a different set of parents. You could have equally strong convictions the other direction, 180 degrees, just by the different places that you're growing up, the way you're raised, and the belief standards that you adopted. So when you start realizing that when we're born into this world, we don't have any beliefs, we don't have any understandings. We absorb the things around us, what our parents say, our teachers say, or people that mentor us say, the things that we read, the things that we watch, we form these beliefs. So for everybody that strongly believes something, there's an equal and opposite person that believes completely different than you, and neither of you is right.
I actually had that moment where I went and tweeted about a certain Supreme Court ruling, and I realized that I actually hadn't expressed my political point of view in about a year publicly. And someone reached out to me who clearly had the exact opposite point of view, and said, "I'm prepared to have a conversation with you if we can have a mature, respectful one." I said, "Of course." They also said something else to me. They said, "Even though we have the most completely opposite points of view, I love you, and you mean more to me than your point of view or our difference of point of view." So I love the fact that they trumped the relationship above that belief. And then we ended up doing a room together in Clubhouse, or maybe it was on Twitter. And I think your point is so true. Compromise wasn't needed, just the ability to give each other the space and the ability to express their point of view. We didn't have to end up in the middle, and we sure as hell weren't going to end up convincing the other, but we actually came together and did it in a manner where we both felt validated and valuable.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that also one of the things that most people in this world, unfortunately, don't have is global experience. They don't leave their state. They don't leave their country. Sometimes people don't leave their town. Let's be real. They're 40, 50 years. They don't even leave their zip code. It's crazy how some people are so grounded. And what happens is that when you don't gain the perspective by visiting and embedding yourself in these different countries or states or cultures, you just really live in a silo. You just think that everything that you believe is right because you have no external perspectives. And I love America. I think this is the best country in the world. I'm very patriotic, but I've also been to dozens and dozens of countries, and I've worked in Africa, and I've worked in England, and I've worked in France and Spain and Italy and all these different countries where I started to pay attention to the things that they do over there that we do a little bit different, and so there's countries that do things exceptionally well in certain areas, and then there's things that they do very poorly in certain areas, and vice versa. So every country has pros and cons, but you'll never have that perspective, unfortunately, because you never leave where you're at.
I'm actually playing with this concept, which of all the places and people, I heard it from Jerry Seinfeld on interviewed by Howard Stern, the concept of zooming out. And I think the thing is, even if we haven't left our zip code, we need to be able to zoom out, just like you would see on the map.
Yes.
To get that bigger perspective. It's just critical because, and oftentimes, if we don't zoom out, what we realize is we're bogged down by the minutia, or we've lost our perspective because we're too damn close to whatever the thing is that we've emotionally attached ourselves to.
Yeah, I would say a good example of this is when I was working in Africa. So when I got assigned to go work in Africa, and I was going to spend about 6 months there, my preconceived notions or my beliefs about what I would expect to see when I landed there and I interacted was completely different than what I actually realized when I was there. And it's because prior to going to somewhere like Angola or Republic of Congo, the two countries that I was working in, all you see is things from National Geographic or from videos where, or these late night infomercials where they're begging for money, and you see this emaciated kids and they get the flies and they're begging for money and everybody just looks so sad. And it's like, oh man, I'm an empathic person and I care about people. It's going to be really hard to go there. Right. And so I was mentally preparing myself for that kind of situation. Then within 24 hours of being there, I realized that was all completely wrong. Yes, there's extreme levels of poverty, probably some of the lowest poverty levels in the world. But the thing is that I also realized that I did not gain this perspective until I visited, was that humans are resilient and humans make do with their situations. They don't know any different. These people were joyous. They were laughing. They're having fun. Kids were running around playing with the things that they could get their hands on and have fun with. And so people were living and having a happy life regardless of how much money they had, not understanding that there were extreme levels of poverty. I'm sure they're highly aware that Hollywood and things like that exist, but you think that they're always going to be sad and like just miserable people because they don't have money and they don't have the resources that we do. And I realized like this is completely wrong. I understand why they show you that, because they want you to open your wallet or your purse to be able to donate. Good reasons, but they're not really being truthful that humans are humans regardless of anywhere you go in the world. However their struggle or adversity, their challenges, they will still find ways to find love, compassion, humor, enjoyment, and fulfillment in their lives.
Amen to that. And look, I'm from South Africa originally, and sometimes it's very difficult to explain to people, no, we don't have lions and hippos and giraffe, walking up and down the road. It's actually, it's actually quite first world, surprisingly enough. But yeah, I mean, so there's a preconceived notion where you come into a situation expecting something and bringing your biases into it. And of course, in the perfect situation, the student becomes the teacher or the teacher becomes the student, and you get a new perspective yourself on life, on priorities, on what's important.
That's it. I mean, we truly have the first world problems. We've all heard that line, but after you've visited some third world countries and worked in those, you realize we have first world problems. When people are complaining about their internet or they need a newer iPhone or things like that, it's like, guys, that's not even a big problem. You don't realize like some of these people that I've met didn't know when their next meal was going to be. It was going to be days later that they were going to get something to eat. So we complain about things and we get on the internet, and we whine and we bicker, and we do just stupid things that aren't really that important in the grand scheme of life.
Louis C.K. has actually a really great line, when he's not being controversial. But he actually talks about being in a plane, and I don't know if you've seen the bit, and someone's complaining like, oh, this damn Wi-Fi, like I can't even connect. It's so slow. And he's like, dude, you are in a piece of aluminum or steel hurtling through space at 800 miles per minute. You are practically flying. You are a god, like wake up. What the hell? And I think we need it. We need the ability sometimes to kind of realize, I guess you're right.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's good stuff. And, I think that another thing, if maybe you can't afford travel, maybe you can't go to Europe or do different things like that, but one of the easiest ways to go do this is go ground yourself in nature. Go for a hike. Go out there and get into the woods. Go find some places to go hike and just be with nature, away from all the noise, where your mind can clear and you can interact and watch these different animals live their lives. And you realize like, man, this is a beautiful planet. And there's a lot of amazing things that go on. And there's a lot of miracles that happen every day, despite what the news and all these, sensationalized media will try to convince us otherwise.
I'm telling you, I think maybe you've been spying on me with what I've been writing, because I'm sure the story about the man, who's in his home and there's a flood water rising, and the pickup truck comes past and says, hop in, I'll take you to safety. He says, don't worry, I have faith. You know that one, right?
I haven't heard that, but yeah, I can see it.
So I'll tell you, he says, don't worry, I've got faith. God will take care of me. A higher power will take care of me. And the waters continue to rise, and it's kind of like mid-first floor. And now a speedboat comes by. They say, hop in and we'll kind of, take you to safety. He says, don't worry about it. I have faith it's going to work out. I believe in the higher power. And eventually the waters rise all the way to the roof. And here he is sitting on the roof, clinging onto the chimney. helicopter comes by, drops a rope ladder, says, get on, this is your last chance. You won't be able to survive the currents. He says, again, I'm going to be okay. And of course, the waters rise. He gets swept away and he dies. He goes up to the pearly gates. The gates open. He demands an audience with the gray-haired man upstairs, and he says, "What the hell? I was so faithful. I had faith. I put my faith in you, and you let me down." And God says, "You idiot! I sent a pickup truck. I sent a speedboat. I sent a helicopter." So the signs are all around us. Are we paying attention?
That's a good one. I didn't know how that was going to end, but I like the ending.
I like that too. Now, I want to talk about side hustles, but before I do that, I always find a quote, and I think maybe we can finish on the subject of criticism and haters, because this is the quote I found for you, which is, this was an interesting one. Haters are sometimes people who can't understand why everyone loves you. I thought that was a little narcissistic. This is by Ziad Abdul Noor, but how do you interpret this statement?
Haters are sometimes people who can't understand why everyone loves you. Well, I can see why that this quote exists. I think that there's a little, I'd say, medium level depth into this thing. It's because what we always think about is hurt people hurt other people. And so I've had these situations when I decided to go out there and be more public and do videos and start creating messages where people aren't really comfortable by you changing. When they see you doing something that's on a self-improvement journey, you would think that this is a positive thing for most people to see. But the thing is you start to highlight the darkness within them because they realize that they have the capability to go do exactly what you're doing, whether you're going on a fitness journey or starting your business or getting on social media or wanting to write a book or launch a podcast or just something that's outside of your norm. Okay. There's going to be a certain segment of your friends. And I would say 5% is the number I've kind of always helped with my clients and the listeners. And just beware of that 5% that maybe you thought were friends or family, but they're really secret naysayers, critics, or haters, because maybe they're sitting there and they're out of shape, for example, and they see you eating healthy and you're posting about it on social media and you're checking in at the gym and they're like, oh, screw Tony. Like, who does he think he is? Like, it's not easy for all of us. So all the excuses start, right? They know deep down inside their head that they could go do what you're doing, but it's a whole lot easier to throw rocks at you and hope that you come back down off that ladder so you hang out in the same box that they're in. So when you start building ladders to climb to different levels, you're going to make people uncomfortable, because here's the other thing that I've learned, even at every different socioeconomic level. I grew up broke, became a multimillionaire. So I've seen all the levels in between. And here's the thing that you don't understand. You're not going to earn a certain amount of money to outgrow people like that. They exist at every single level of your life. So don't think that just because you leveled up that, I'm around all these better people. Yes, you'll be around better people, have more skills, more knowledge, more intelligence, more experience. But even then, when you start to climb out of that level, you're going to still see this resistance show up again. And it shows up at every level. And here's why. It's because at any given plateau or level that we want to perceive, most of us are hanging out. We're cordial. We're social. We're happy to be there. But more than half of us are hoping that the other people don't discover that we don't really deserve to be there. We don't feel like we've earned the right to make it to that level, even though everybody perceives us at that level, whether that's financial or success or impact or however you want to define your own version of success. You're at that level and everybody believes that they got lucky to get at that level. And they're hoping that other people don't discover why they made it to that level. So when they see you over there building the ladder again to climb out, they're like, hey, we should just be lucky to be at this level. Like, what are you doing? Like, because they think they belong on lower levels. Mentally, they probably are still on lower levels. See that how it works? So just get uncomfortable and realize that not everybody's meant to go on your journey. Not everybody's meant to hang out with you until you go to the top of the mountain and celebrate together. It's just not going to work that way. Now, here's the other thing is some of those people that you leave behind will eventually catch up on their own, but they won't be doing it because you've told them or you've given them advice. They have to find out for themselves that they are ready to go do things and learn things and become more skillful, more knowledge-based to be able to go get their own levels of success. And sometimes they'll have a faster acceleration curve than you. So I always think about that as I try to, just be respectful for people that I'll just create boundaries. I'll just create boundaries, but I'll still be respectful. I don't want to get into arguing or shouting matches or holding grudges, because one of the things that you learn, especially like after I've been in a near-death experience racing cars, is that if I'm going to forgive this person on my deathbed, like if I can really visualize my deathbed, whenever that may be, if I can look at the grudges or the things that I hold on people and I go, hey, would I forgive that person on my deathbed? And if the answer is yes, then why aren't you forgiving them today? Because the longer you carry that grudge, the more you're going to be weighed down with anchors and things that are going to slow you down in life. So just forgive those people and move on and realize that they're just not ready for you and they weren't meant for you. And their message that you're creating was never intended for them. And it's okay, because too many people, I think, out there, especially they're getting started in social media or trying to create something, they're so worried about trying to please everybody. And I did the same thing. When I started coming out in 2015, 2016, not too long ago, I was just trying to please everybody. I didn't want anybody upset at me. And I was just playing warm, fuzzy, average in the middle and just being nice, because I'm a nice person. I'm an empath. I care about people. So you start getting these critics that show up again and you're like, whoa, what did I do wrong? What is it me? You start to believe it's you, but it's really them. Understand that it's them. It's not you. It's never you, unless you're purposely intending to go antagonize people, to disrupt people. If you go out there with intentions to harm people, then you do deserve the backlash. That's how it works. But if your intentions are pure and you know this deep down, that I'm doing things for the right reason and I'm still getting the negative reactions, realizing it's all about them. It's not about you at this point. So grow and understand that your message will improve. You'll get more confidence. You'll be welcomed by people at the next levels that see that you're working to get there. And just get rid of those people, create boundaries, and especially family, because too many people hold on to family because, oh, that's my sister. Oh, that's my mom. Oh, that's my wife sometimes, right? Understand that they're toxic people and they're not supporting you on your journey, and they're saying things to try to hold you down at that level. You don't need to be around those people, no matter who they are. And if they're family, you should be actually more critical of those people than strangers, because they should have a level of respect and love for you, even if they disagree with you. Don't let those people hold you back.
I mean, that's the air horn. The air horn is out. George Christopher says, "I love the wisdom nuggets you two are tossing out." I think it's all just Tony doing the tossing. I'm just the receptacle here today, but I really do. I mean, wow, there was so much in there, and I was visualizing chutes and ladders, and I was thinking that's kind of like a real microcosm of life.
It's a good game. Yeah.
Yeah. And in this case, the leveling up, first of all, just to kind of put a little pin or maybe a bow on it. I love the thing that says, you think that when you level up, your problems are going to go away. They won't, because there'll be a whole new set of problems, or at least the same problems by different people who are small-minded, who are narrow, who are threatened. And then the other thing that I loved was the dynamism of realizing wherever you are, there's someone laddering up to where you are, and there's someone laddering out, and sometimes you might be laddering out. And so I think it's really important to always remember where someone is on their journey. Even though you're at the same level, one may have just come up, one may have come down, and that, I think, brings a lot more depth and perspective and wisdom to the table.
Yeah, I think that for many years, for decades of my life, I'll be 50 in a month, I just thought that I would outgrow this. I thought that I would out-earn these issues, and I have not seen evidence. And talking to my mentors, which are some pretty big names nowadays, they've seen the exact same thing. They're further ahead of me, but they've realized that people are people at every level, and there's always going to be this small segment of people that are not happy to see you do better.
You don't outgrow bullies.
You
I
don't.
mean, now, I have to say that one of the things I always do gives me a little bit of a kick is I try and come up with the next book of my guest. And so I'm thrilled to be able to tell people, please look for Tony's next book, which will be out soon, called Deathbed Confessions. No, I'm just kidding.
I like it. I like it.
It's like taxi cab confessions. But again, real words of wisdom. I mean, it comes back to that what I always tell my kids, which is, if you're not going to worry about it in 5 years' time, don't spend more than the next 5 minutes worrying about it now. Well, here's what we are not going to worry about. We're going to talk about your book. I mean, I can't even, I'm going to have to have you back again, Tony, but like Side Hustle Millionaire, not Slumdog Millionaire, but in fact, the opposite, Side Hustle Millionaire. This resonates super strongly with me because I think part of the message is you don't have to necessarily quit your day job. You can keep that safety net. You can still put food on the table and pursue your passion and pursue your dream.
Agreed with that. I think that pushing the career delete button initially is not a good idea for most people, especially if you're a higher level earner. I think if you're, let's say if you're earning $75,000 a year or more, it's kind of not really financial wise to go hard delete your career and go all in on some startup. Now, if you got a really entry level job where you're making $15 an hour, then absolutely, you probably should go quit that job and go start some businesses, because it's pretty easy to make $15 an hour doing a lot of different tasks and duties out there that you can do virtually, that you don't really need that job at that level. So, I built these businesses as a successful oil and gas engineer where I was highly compensated. I was making over $250,000 a year. I was on an executive path, but my passion was not oil and gas. My passion was always cars. So I built several businesses in the automotive performance industry, and those are the things I just enjoyed doing. So it's another tip there, is that if you're going to go create a business, make sure that you enjoy that thing and make sure you love that topic or that industry, because if you don't, your energy is not going to match the result, because there's going to be people that you're competing against that actually do love what they do in that business, and they're going to run circles around you because they actually care and love what they do versus you just looking at the money aspect.
Oh, you just gave me such a beautiful boost to work on, because I've tried to come up with a formula now to be forever changed. And the very first part is love what you do. And I've been noodling with it, and you've just given such an amazing build. I will have to attribute that back to you, which is, if you don't love what you do, there is someone. See, we always used to look at it differently. We'd always say, remember the old adage, by the way, when you turn 50, the only, because I'm 51 now, there's only one bad part to turning 50 besides the physical, but get your prostate checked and your colonoscopy. But I digress. And it's the fact that you're going to get, like clockwork, the letter from the AARP offering your free luggage tags, and it's going to suck. But, these people
I might get them. I'm just going to get those tags. I think I'll just order them and be the 50-year-old that's got them. Why not? Right?
These people are ruthless, let me tell you. But we were always told there's someone half your age that will work twice as hard as you for half the pay. That's actually completely bullshit, because the fact is people half your age will work half as hard as you and expect double the pay. So it isn't actually about that. It is about love. And that is the ultimate competitive advantage, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that my definition of success has changed with each period of my life. I would say that when you're in your teenage years, you're looking to maybe just become more popular, or not get beat up by bullies, or maybe have a cute girlfriend or boyfriend, right? 20s is really about, I thought about success as just gaining more education. So I put myself through college. I was working construction and going to engineering school at night. And it took me 7 years to graduate. And I was just learning knowledge, teaching myself photography and how to build websites to make side business money. And 30s for me, and most men and most alpha women out there that are like career focused, 30s for most people is like I would say it's productive, but also destructive at the same time. When you're in your 30s, most people that are driven are just really focused on making money. They just want to make as much money as possible. And they're working crazy hours. They're making all these sacrifices, and they're paying their dues in corporate to climb the ladder. And they're just traveling. And they're just doing all kinds of stuff to really take away from their fulfillment and their joy in life. You're probably stressed out in these years, and you have most money that you'll ever have, but you're making all these sacrifices to do it. Now, when you hit 40, is when you start to look back on your previous part of your life, and you go, man, could I have done things better? And the answer is always yes, because by that time, you may be at a higher earning level, and you go, hey, you know what? Would I take a 20% pay cut if I could have every Friday off? And I think that a lot of people in their 40s would gladly take Fridays off every week, 20% of their work days, and take a 20% pay cut, because they're compensated more than they actually need to live their life and have happiness. So, and you're getting through your 40s and you're 50 now, you start to realize, like, what's fulfillment? What's legacy? What does that even mean to me? How am I going to be remembered? Am I making enough impact in this world? And you start to realize that fulfillment and happiness are the most valuable things in life. It's not about money. It's not about money. I told you about the Africa thing. There's people that are happy and fulfilled without money. So you start to realize that I can actually define my own level of success. And for me, that's happiness and fulfillment. It's like getting up every day excited about what I get to do. And that's what I do now, right? I didn't do that when I was working in oil and gas and engineering. I did not enjoy my daily life. I had the commuting, I had to get ready, I had to ask for permission to go on vacation, I had to take time off, I had to beg for raises, I had to go places I didn't want to go. All these different things that are just controlling you. So when you start to understand what true freedom is, because a lot of you will have financial freedom, but you won't have real freedom. When you start to have freedom of location, place, the places you want to be, the things you want to do, the fulfillment, the things that you really tick the box for you to make you happy in life, and you don't have to be anywhere at any place at any time, that's when you start to have real freedom. And unfortunately, I can tell you all about it, but you'll never understand it until you experience it for yourself. And once you get a taste of that, you'll never want to go back to a job.
Do I need to threaten you with another air horn? I will, but don't make me do it a third time. Heather Parody is here, amazing guest who's been on the show. She's saying, let's go. I mean, I feel it. Let's go. I mean, I'm so pumped up. But here is the little sting in the tail. Tony, what do you do when you're working for that company? You've got your safety net. You're starting your side hustle, but they are clamping down and they're not giving you the freedom, the flexibility. They're trying to control. They're trying to own. Is that the ground then to say, see ya?
No, I think that the logical way to do this is to build a runway. Build a runway. Think about the business that you want to start. Well, let me reframe this a little bit. First, you want to identify what I call is your freedom number. What is your freedom number, you ask? Well, it's really simple. That's the bare minimum income that you need to make on a monthly basis to pay all your bills and the things that you have to cover on, so you don't go into debt, right? So you've got your rent or your mortgage, maybe you've got a car loan, you've got some different loans, you've got some bills, you've got your medical insurance. I want you to really think about that and use a spreadsheet or just something and just do some simple math and go, hey, if I can get rid of this, I don't need that. I can get rid of this expense. Like, what is that actual number? And you'll find that a lot of times that number is actually lower than you think. Because most people, when you come to thinking what your freedom number is, you think it's your salary. You think it's what you're making today. You think like, oh, I'm making $100,000 a year, and that's my freedom number. No, it's not. If you actually do the math, it's probably a lot less than that, and you'll be surprised. So once you understand what that number is, write it down, put it on a Post-it note on your mirror, do something that you understand what that number is. And when you build a side business that achieves that number in a period of 3 months in a row, and you see that it's kind of stable at that level, you actually are at that point in that moment that you have your freedom should you decide to take your parachute and jump, okay? Most people will not. Most people will be like, well, I'll just keep both jobs and, I can build the side thing on the side. But realize this, if your company, the thing that you started, could greatly benefit financially if you were to invest in their 8 hours a day that you're not spending at your job, or let's be real, it's more like 10 hours a day because you're commuting back and forth. If you could put that 10 hours a day into that company and actually see a return and see it start to grow and get you closer to your dreams and your true freedom, why aren't you doing that at that time, right? That's the hard question. So what you really want to build is that runway, going back to that. And to me, a runway is like 3 to 6 months of savings. So whatever your freedom number is, save up 3 to 6 months worth of that freedom number. That way, if you decide to finally get the courage to go bet on yourself and go all in, you'll have 3 to 6 months of runway to get it off the ground. And you'll have all your bills covered and you won't be stressed out about that. And you can actually go out there and be excited about every single day and spend those 8 to 10 hours that you've been wasting at your job by building this company and seeing it grow. So hopefully by that 3 to 6 months, the worst case, you have to go get another job. You would have been there anyways. So think about this. You're not really losing a whole lot by betting on yourself.
If anyone is doubting the message, bet on yourself, because who else is going to bet on you? Exactly. Now, one of the things you're probably going to need when you are building this runway and building this, I like to say, an extra, if you have 2 horses in the race, you have a better chance of winning the race. Today, our correspondent, it's Flow Tuesdays, Lubna Zaru, and this is her correspondent contribution called Flow Ritual.
Ever tried to get things done when you don't feel like it? I'm pretty sure that you either didn't even get started or it took you 2, 4 times as long. And that's because our state matters. It matters how we feel at any given time. It and how we feel impacts our performance. And especially when we talk about flow state, we want to be in a state where we feel good, where we are experiencing positive emotions. And so that might mean that before you take a task and get yourself into an environment and a place where you want to get that task done, you need to do something else. You need to take a couple of steps to make sure that you are in the right state to get into flow state. And what that looks like is different for each and every single one of you. It's a personalized flow ritual. So on this Flow Tuesday, I would love for you to start thinking, what are some of the steps that I can take and that could be part of my flow ritual? And I'll give you a couple of examples. As some people enjoy some meditation. Meditation is very powerful because it helps you focus you in the here and now. But if you're not a meditation person, just taking a couple of deep breaths in and out will do wonders for you. Another tip if you want that you might want to incorporate into your flow ritual is you might want to set yourself up, your physical environment, in a way that triggers your brain and your mind to think, I want to get into flow state, which probably most of us means that we want to get rid of distractions. And yes, that also means getting rid of that smartphone, of the pings on your computer, because even the smartphone in your physical environment without any notification going off or on is enough for your mind and brain to be distracted. So yes, put away your phone, switch off all of the notifications so that you can really focus on what you want to do. But there are other ways that you could incorporate into your flow ritual to make sure that you are set up for success. That is my contribution for this Flow Tuesday.
I actually really loved this point about the pings and the dings and the notification, that anything that takes you out of flow. But for me, it's just so important to be not just happy and love what you do, but also to be at peace and content with your situation, no matter where it is, because, again, it goes back to this idea of the leveling up, right, Tony? It's like we're all at different stages of our journey. We need to recognize that. And that brings us to a point, I think, where we stop living comparatively and we start living for ourselves.
Yeah, actually, I enjoyed that the last part of that video message, because she does exactly what I do. I actually do not have my ringer on my phone. I have 0 notifications, no noise. I basically keep my phone on silent, and I don't have it on vibrate or anything. It's just off. And when I'm available for calls, I will have my phone face up next to the keyboard where I can see the screen ring if I happen to glance down. And if not, the thing stays face down where I don't see the screen at all. So it doesn't interrupt me. My wife sometimes will be like, how come you didn't answer the calls? Like, because I'm on something or I'm focusing on something. I just basically, there's different ways to reach me. So I've been like that for about 6 years now. After I'd left corporate and I was on a 24/7 kind of call with the things I was running, I just decided I didn't want that electronic leash anymore. I basically control it. I look at it when I want to, not when it wants me to look at it. So that's another thing. And the other thing that I haven't really used in probably 15 years is an alarm clock. I don't use an alarm clock. I just understand that I sleep about 6 hours, 6.5 hours on average if I'm not sick. And I control when I go to bed. So I go to bed around 10 o'clock and I get up at 4 or 5:30, somewhere in that range. But I don't ever use an alarm clock, because I remember using an alarm clock earlier in my career. Like, what is the worst way you can actually wake up? It's having some crazy thing going off in your ear, just like you're upsetting you. Like, it's like, what is that noise? Like, what a great way to start your day, right? So learn how to control the amount of hours you sleep based on your normal rhythm, and control when you go to sleep instead of relying on an alarm clock. And you'll wake up every day a lot more refreshed and excited instead of hearing that noise the first thing of your waking moments.
Well, I want to make sure that when I come with you next on one of these excursions, I will not set my alarm. If you're ready to discover your potential, you already have taken the first step by watching this episode. The next thing, of course, you need to do is go and buy side hustle millionaire who wants to be a side hustle millionaire. Everyone. I mean, it's rhetorical. You can connect with Tony at 365 Driven. Of course, purchase Side Hustle Millionaire, available at Amazon or sidehustlebook.net. Look out for Deathbed Confessions. Just kidding. Maybe I'll write that book. You can find him in Clubhouse, on Facebook, MetaBook, on Instagram. But I have to say, Tony, we really are in simpatico. It's amazing to connect in video. It's still virtual, but it's better than just audio. I mean, I have a live streaming show. I have to say video. Hopefully the next time will be IRL at one of those wonderful excursions. This has been literally, dropping gems to the point where that button that activates the air horn is almost completely worn out. I just want to thank you for an unforgettable hour together. And I'll tell you who else really loved today, and that was Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And we will be back tomorrow with Heather Havenwood. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.